Brooklyn, New York. On the 13th of March 1939, Neil Sedaka was born to a working-class Jewish family. His parents, Mac and Eleanor, lived on Coney Island Avenue with Neil's sister Ronnie, his grandparents and 5 aunts.
We were 11 people in a 2-bedroom apartment, so I was quite spoiled and babied, being the only little boy. My mother said I wouldn't eat until there was music on the radio. We had an old phonograph player, and she went out and bought a '78 record. I'll never forget it. It was by the Moylan sisters, and she saw my reaction. And I remember running with the '78 to the record player, slipped, cracked it into a million pieces, and being the Jewish mother that she was, she ran back to Kings Highway and bought another copy of the '78.
Brighton Beach, Brooklyn in the 1940s was a Jewish neighborhood where lower to middle class families like the Sedakas promoted the values of education and culture to their children.
I had a neighbor who had a piano, and when I was 8 years old I noticed that I could pick out a tune with one finger by ear. Of course we couldn't afford a piano, but my mother took a job as a sales lady in a department store, and we bought a second-hand piano for $500, and I started playing with a private teacher, Murray Newman. And after a year, he came to my mother and father and said, I can't teach him anymore. I think he should audition for the Juilliard school, the prep school. And I got a scholarship for the piano.
Once a week from 1947 until 1958, Neil traveled to Manhattan with fellow pianist and best friend Freddie Gershon. Entering Juilliard was a culture shock for the 8-year-old boys.
We were exposed to a world of serious music. There's no frivolity there. It's not just learning how to play the instrument. It's learning musicianship and the difference between being a piano player or pianist. There was conducting classes, ear training classes.
It was a very rigid life. The Juilliard people knew nothing but serious music. And one Saturday each month, we would have to perform in front of the teachers and the students. And I used to throw up.
But although Neil suffered from stage fright, his skills as a pianist stood out even at Juilliard. And as a teenager, he won a competition to perform at the WQXR radio station.
Neil Sedaka is going to play for us the Reflet dans l'eau of Debussy.
His ability to grasp musical concepts and ideas and approaches to his instrument was a gift. Juilliard was a defining element of our lives in terms of opening our eyes to see the world, the adventure of discovering that Manhattan is like going to the Emerald City in The Wizard of Oz. That's how far removed it was from Brooklyn where we lived. So we had this great time. We went to Radio City Music Hall, we saw the live stage shows, we got to see Broadway shows, and we devoured it.
However, Neil's classical training didn't endear him to all the kids in high school.
Lincoln High School was tough. I was an outcast because I couldn't play ball, and I was a sensitive kid with a high voice. I was a nerd.
By the time he was 13, Neil seemed destined for life as a concert pianist.
But then I was sidetracked thanks to Howie Greenfield, who lived in the same apartment building in Brooklyn. He knocked at my door, 1952, October the 11th, I remember it exactly. And I said, what do you want? He said, well, my mother said you play the piano and I can write lyrics. Would you like to write a song? I said, I don't know how to write songs. I'm going to be a concert pianist. And I'm so glad he convinced me.